Today on Sagittarian Matters, we revisit Splash, Revenge of the Nerds, Mannequin, Scrooged, and more, as my guests Dynasty Handbag and MARIAH GARNETT explore which 80s movies you can watch without wanting to die. Stay tuned.
Sagittarian Matters, Sagittarian Matters, what's the matter with you? Sagittarian Matters.
Hello from the Sagittarian Matters Social Distancing Studios in Los Angeles, California. I have some notes for this week's episode. Okay, here's how it came to pass. This holiday season, just a couple of months ago, I got very excited to share some of my favorite holiday movies from my childhood with my spouse, Kaya. One of those was the movie Scrooged, starring Bill Murray. I remembered it as being so edgy and cool and funny and scary and like very badass. And so we watched it. I went out of my way. I think I probably paid money to rent it. I don't know, but it fell flat. She was like, I think I never need to watch that movie again. And I agreed. Imagine my delight when I saw that friend to the show, Dynasty Handbag, aka Jibz Cameron, and her spouse, MARIAH GARNETT, were also on an 80s movie quest to rewatch movies, including Scrooged, that they had enjoyed during the 80s and early 90s, and then to kind of see if they held up today. Could they watch these movies without wanting to die? Well, listeners, I asked them to come on the show to talk about this. We talk about Splash, Scrooged, Revenge of the Nerds, Mannequin, Overboard, Back to the Future 2. We mentioned The Neverending Story. We mentioned Labyrinth. I need to tell you it was cut for time, but they loved Heathers. Heathers had some rough spots, but the rough spots were not as bad as all the other things. So they do recommend that you can watch Heathers, perhaps. Before we get to the show, I want to issue a content warning. The 80s, particularly mainstream films of the 80s, not so long ago, were a time of a lot more unabashed racism, sexism, sizism, ableism, classism, and homophobia. These are the movies we're talking about. These are the movies that our brains were soaking in and butting against and pushing against when we were growing up. So please take that content warning as you will. Please know we'll be talking about the things that happen in these films and any other side notes. Oh, a side note is when Jibz is talking about Splash and doing an impression of Daryl Hannah when she's horny, please imagine Jibz's tongue moving about wildly. That's something you need to know. The other thing is I mentioned that the Omega Institute in upstate New York used to be a Jewish summer camp. It was actually a Yiddish cultural camp called Camp Boyberik. It was established in 1913 and it was at that property until 1979. All right. I hope you enjoy my talk with Jibz Cameron and MARIAH GARNETT about movies from the 80s and whether or not watching them today makes us want to die. Dynasty Handbag is the stage name of artist Jibz Cameron. Jibz is a performance artist and video artist living in Los Angeles, California. She was called outrageously smart, grotesque, and innovative by The New Yorker. Most recently and excitingly, Jibz's film Weirdo Night debuted to rave reviews at the Sundance Film Festival. You can find Jibz at dynastyhandbag.com. MARIAH GARNETT is a filmmaker who mixes documentary, narrative, and experimental filmmaking practices to make work that accesses existing people and communities beyond her immediate experience. MARIAH directed Weirdo Night, which just premiered at Sundance, and is also the creator of a film called Trouble, in which a queer American filmmaker connects with her estranged Northern Irish father, discovering new things about his political past by playing him as a young man in a series of verbatim reenactments. You can find MARIAH at mariahgarnett.com. Now please enjoy my talk and many movie reviews by Jibz Cameron and MARIAH GARNETT. Both of you, over the holiday break, decided to take a walk down memory lane, as I did, and visit some movies from the 1980s.
Yes.
What led you down this path?
We wanted to watch Scrooged because we were like, oh, that's a classic holiday film. And neither of us had seen it in a while. And I remember it being kind of like a fun, irreverent Christmas movie that was like the best take on Christmas Carol. And then we watched it.
Yeah, and I was just remembering the Carol Kane part. And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is the reason why I only remembered the Carol Kane part, because the rest of it is dog shit. It's terrible.
It's not even really the worst of
No,
the 80s movies at
definitely
all.
not.
But it definitely, like, it's this brand of 80s comedy that's just like coke-fueled man screaming is the joke, I guess.
Yeah, it's the joke. And he's like very not acting. He's acting and like he's insulting the audience with his acting by pretending like he's just, it's like he's, okay, let me think. Okay, so Bill Murray, he's the CEO of this like network, and he hates Christmas, and he's like visited by like the past, present, future. He's yelling the whole time, but he's also doing it in this sort of like cheeky way where you're like, you're just being Bill Murray. Like it's not, I was annoyed at his inability to commit emotionally, quite frankly. And
Even
then,
at the end, does he just go from yelling and then he has the whole emotional journey, and at the end he just yells some more?
Yeah.
yeah, he yells some more, but then you're like, he hates this script. You can tell that he hates it.
He's like mean yelling in the beginning, and then he's like, come on, everybody, let's be nice to each other, yelling at the end. But it's like the same tone all the way through.
But yelling, that made us thought of this, made us think about this other trip that we took when we were in Provincetown in the old days when we were traveling by carriage, and we were like, let's watch Splash. I loved Splash. Oh my God.
I watched Scrooged over the holidays. Full disclosure, I tried to show it to Kaya. I was like, I remember Scrooge being so badass. I remember this being such an awesome Christmas movie, and it really fell flat in this household. And we didn't even think about the Coke screaming. I think it just was like everything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the way that it like is trying to be like smart and ironic about media with that like Christmas ad he airs where it's like freeway shooters and nuclear war. Like, I don't know. It just felt like the first time anybody had ever made a joke about TV in a movie or something. It was just like so basic. So like a lot of it's just not good.
Can I ask you guys, before we move on to Splash, what was your take on Bobcat Goldthwait's performance?
It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, Bobcat's not worth the movie, but I love Bobcat.
Him and Carol Kane were the two good actors in the
Yeah.
movie. Also,
Bright spots.
the relationship between him and the romantic lead, Karen Allen, just like made no sense at all.
Oh, this
Like-
is a thing I wanted to say. She calls him Lumpy at first, and that seems cute and like, oh, one person knows him, but she never stops calling him Lumpy. She never calls him by any other name, so it just kind of wears it out.
Yeah, and like, well, there's so much in that movie. Like the
That's my name. Don't wear it out. You should have said that. That was an 80s thing.
well, like the 80s take on the 60s too. I was like, oh, weird, right? Like these people who are in their 40s in the 80s would have been in their 20s in the 60s, and that would have been, I don't know, just like that like free love hippie loft that they like made love in.
Yeah,
when
they made
first got
love in.
together.
Well, also, yeah, because it was like, that was also the time of like the big chill where everybody was like trying not to be a yuppie, like trying not to like throw their values in the trash, because now they're like, it's the 80s and they're making money. And there was like a big cultural critique moment happening at that time. So like I remember when somebody called my dad a yuppie because he was a hippie, and then he like didn't look like a hippie
And he got
anymore.
a sob.
Then he had a sob. So little did they know how he attained that sob. But yeah, so I feel like that was also part of the dialogue of the day. The jokes of the day were, you know, like an executive and like how you lose your soul because
Wasn't that that was the whole theme of Family Ties?
Yeah, Alice P. Keaton. Young Republican, and they were like NPR. They worked for the NPR or something, right?
But yeah, also the romantic lead thing, it just, I don't know, like how she was like going through all the emotional arcs and he was just screaming. And like for some reason at the end, like her arc had nothing, her like emotional range or what the emotions she was going through, like that were supposedly about him, like there was just nothing for her to bounce off of because he was just screaming the whole time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like in the end, she's like, "Oh, he's changed, but he's still just screaming." No.
Lumpy.
Lumpy. And then you don't even get to see Mary Lou Retton as Tiny Tim do her
That-
jump.
That was my reel. At the end, I felt cheated out of seeing that, like, whatever you call, like, that aerial, that, like, hands-free cartwheel.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do we do a thumb system or a star system here?
Thumbs
down.
Butt. Thumb,
A butt system?
thumbs down.
Yeah.
Okay. Scrooge thumbs down. Okay, now let's travel to Splash. Jibz, will you describe the plot of Splash as you
Okay.
remember it?
Yes. Now, mind you, I grew up in California, so I really didn't understand what Cape Cod was, where it was. Like, I didn't understand anything about Manhattan. And so there's a lot of geographical information that didn't register with me as a kid. And I say that because, well, he goes on this like boat journey or something. He's going on the ferry to Cape Cod or something like that for summer vacation when he's a kid.
Who's the man?
Oh, Tam Honks.
Okay.
And he sees a mermaid in the water when he's on his way. And he's got this like, you know, shitty brother who was played by John Candy, who's like a womanizer and always trying to look up women's dresses. And
did you remember that from being a kid though? Or you just, this is
what I remember.
Oh, okay.
I remember very distinctly his joke where he throws change on the ground so that he can look up women's dresses. And then
like, good idea.
I was like, wow, that guy got something. And then I remember like also that they show time passing and nothing changed by having him do that again in the next scene, like as an adult. When they fast forward to the 80s. So so the plot was like he meets this mermaid when he's a kid, and then the mermaid comes back to town as an adult mermaid, and it's Daryl Hannah and she has legs. And he finds her, this is as I remember it.
Yeah.
He finds her on the beach for some reason. He's on the beach and she doesn't know she can't talk and she doesn't have any clothes on. And he takes her in and then she learns how to watch TV in one day from watching TV while he's at work.
Learns how to speak English from watching TV.
Yeah, she learns how to, but she doesn't speak anything. She speaks like,
she speaks dolphin.
She speaks dolphin. Yeah. So I remember that, like, as a kid, I remember her speaking dolphin and breaking all the TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
she has to put her in the bathtub, right? Because she has to stay wet.
No,
she puts herself.
She takes a bath
with salt in it.
That we'll get to this.
Okay. Sorry.
So she I remember he like works at a fruit stand. I couldn't remember what he did, but it was some like problem at his work. Like it was like drama, and he had like something to do with fruit. So then
I can't believe you remember all this from when you were a kid.
I loved this movie.
All I remember was like Daryl Hannah is a beautiful mermaid who comes out of the ocean and takes a bath in salt and her tail comes out, and then scientists want to kidnap her, and Tom Hanks is like there, and then she has to go back in the ocean.
Well, my favorite part,
it's just about her. Like that's all I remember is how amazing she was.
Yeah, the best part of the movie is her learning to speak English, and then she talks to him in commercial language, which I thought was so fucking funny when I was a kid.
Like what?
Like, she'd be like, I think she was like, "Hi, do you want to try our new brand of decaf coffee?" Like when he comes home or something like that, and he's like, "What?" And she's like, "I learned how to," he's like, "How did you do that?" She's like, "I watch TV all day." And then he takes her to get clothes and she goes to Bloomingdale's and she sees Bloomingdale's on the TV, and there's this part where she's watching an Anne Klein fashion show, and I remember my sister and I used to say this all the time: Anne Klein, Bloomingdale's, Anne Klein, Bloomingdale's, and she gets all these fabulous clothes, and then she gets her name Madison because they're on Madison Avenue.
Oh yeah.
She takes a bath, and do you remember the part, like in your memory, that her part where her mermaid fin like unfolds really dramatically?
That's like what the movie was about for me as a child.
Yeah. Her spreading her
That's
sea
the plot.
legs.
That's like the whole plot of the movie.
The plot of the movie.
Is that she had a tail.
Anyway, then I don't even know what happened after that. We kind of did we turn it off? Well, anyway, in my memory, what happens is there's a big part that I forgot to say that happened in my memory, which was that he gets drunk in the beginning as an adult and remembers this mermaid before he meets her and asks the cab to take him to Cape Cod. And I was like, what's Cape Cod and why is that a big deal that he has to take a cab there?
Because it's like $800 cab ride or something.
Yeah, but I didn't know where it was or what it was. Anyway, that stuck out of my memory.
So you watched this again in P-Town?
We tried watching it in Provincetown in Cape Cod with our friend Lana, who's like obsessed with mermaids. And we were like, you've never seen Splash? You're going to love it. And we turned it off after like 10 minutes. We turned it off after he started like rapily banging down the door while she was trying to take a bath and unwind her tail.
So meanwhile, as children, we're like watching this wonderful display of mermaid tail. Like the funny thing too is I do remember like specifically the iodized salt that she puts in there, which is not the same salt as the salt that's in the sea.
No, it's not sea salt.
And then,
but what it turned out the movie was about, because I thought the movie was about a beautiful mermaid doing stuff, but it turns out it's about like Tom Hanks who screen talks and finds this like mute, beautiful woman who just wants to fuck him all day long.
Who's naked. Yeah, they have sex. That's a big
They're
part
just
of
like
it.
boning all the time, and she's just horny for like lame Tom Hanks, who's like the junior second son of a fruit merchandise warehouse company. That's what it's about, actually.
That is what it's about. Their sex thing was so shocking to us. We were like, oh my God, like he comes home and she's like, just like molesting him. And he's like, no, I gotta go to work. I gotta work. And she's like, no. And like pulling on his tie. And it was just, it was shocking. And he's yelling the whole time.
Yeah, he yells the whole time. I don't know. Why is men acting style from the 80s yelling all the time?
Who was directing them too? To be like, you got it. That's perfect. Let's do one more take, but more yelling.
Yeah, I don't know who directed
Some man who was like, great job.
So this is a theme. We're going to continue with this theme of like men that by society standards aren't doing so hot, but then for some reason in this movies, they're getting their comeuppance. They're getting women. They're getting like the commodity of women, like Revenge of the Nerds, like Rick Moranis's whole career arc, like Tom Hanks in this, Tom Hanks in Big.
Oh my God.
I haven't revisited that.
Tom Hanks in Big there's a few problems with that movie.
So Splash, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
So these both went from thumbs up to thumbs down.
Yeah, like from like 7 thumbs up. Best movie ever.
The best movie ever as an 8-year-old.
Yeah. But my friend Anna told me she tried to watch Splash with her daughter, who's like 10 now, and she was just like, "What?" Like the kid was like, "What?" I was watching this. And they were like, "Ugh." Yeah, it just like fell really flat. So that's heartening. It just makes me think about like being a little girl, I guess is what I was, and like watching.
I guess is what I was.
And watching this stuff and just like having the wherewithal to just like block all that shit out and just like focus on the positive, which was Daryl Hannah, or like Carol. I don't know. I'm like, wow, that must have taken a lot of energy actually.
Well, that was like being a kid and watching things for adults and letting all the adult humor just kind of wash over you as you're like, there's just stuff I don't understand. I don't know. That's for somebody else, not for me.
Yes.
I feel like that's those parts.
And like a child's like extreme focus on what that is like getting like what is making them excited. You know, it's like
The tail.
you know, it's like going to Disneyland with a kid. You're like, I want to die and murder everyone here. I hate this place so much. It's so disgusting. And the kids are like, "Wah!" Like it's like they're in another place. You know, you're in another place.
Today's episode is brought to you by Emily Helmus, Zoe Worth, Shoshana Ruth Wechter, Christy Herod, and Joey Soloway. If you would like to support Sagittarian Matters, especially and in particular producer Chris Sutton, please send $5, $5 million, that's your choice, via PayPal to hornetleg@gmail.com. Or, this just in, he's got a Venmo, Hell Books on Venmo. That's HE double hockey sticks books. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to saying your name on the podcast. Producer Ponyo looks forward to it too. Don't be scared. That's just Ponyo's speaking voice. Revenge of the Nerds and Police Academy were two movies that I grew up. I was like weaned on Revenge of the Nerds and Police Academy.
Same here. Police Academy and Airplane. Those were the three.
I think I revisited. Oh no, it was Naked Gun. I revisited Naked Gun like 5 years ago.
Thumbs up.
That held up.
Big thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
Naked Gun, thumbs up. Let's talk about Revenge of the Nerds.
Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Then he raped somebody, the main character.
Was that Revenge of the Nerds 1 or 2? Was that where he's wearing the Darth
One.
Vader helmet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we were still talking about Naked Gun. I was like, he doesn't rape anybody in Naked Gun.
No, he wears a giant condom. Presumably.
Right. Yeah, he's practicing safe
Safe
sex.
sex.
Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds. There's a rape in the middle of it, and some other stuff like the
There's some really fucked up race shit and homophobic shit.
Right. Yeah, that too.
But there's also Booger, who wears a t-shirt that says "Give me head till I'm dead," which I thought was the funniest thing in the world when I was a kid.
You knew what
And
that meant. when you
I
were
didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, me neither.
I did.
Actually, where I learned what that meant was Outrageous Fortune.
So Revenge of the Nerds, how I remember it, I cannot bear to go back. I can't bear to go back because I know, why did this do something to my brain? I don't know. But like, look at me now. Just, I feel like I'm like living the nerd kind of, whatever seed was planted there. So it's like some nerds, they're getting bullied by a fraternity. So they decide to start their own fraternity. But then since they're outcasts, they're supported by the Black fraternity. And then also they're allied with the woman sorority that's full of like women with huge, like boobs that are so big that it's like a handicap. Like they just like, their boobs are so big they could barely like walk. So they're called the Omega Moos. And then the nerds come and they'll like nestle their heads in their boobs. And at some point, the jock's blonde girlfriend gets raped by one of the nerds and decides she likes nerd dick. And then that's the movie.
There's also a moment where they like triumph at the like spring fling games or something.
The Olympiad games,
Right.
because they have all these.
They plant hidden cameras in the hot girl sorority, and then they have like a pie eating contest or something, and they print out pictures of the hot girls in the shower and stuff on the bottom of the pie plates. So they're like super popular because everybody's like gobbling up their pie so they can get to these like ill-gotten nudie pics of the hot girls in the shower. And that was like triumph of the nerds. Good job, guys.
And then like Takeshi, the like Japanese nerd, invents some kind of like something that you can take so that you don't get drunk. So when there's like a contest where you drink a bunch of beer and you have to ride a tricycle around in circles, he doesn't get drunk, and so they win that. And then Lamar has there's a javelin toss, and then the aerodynamics nerd Wormser, he invents a like aerodynamic like floppy javelin that Lamar, the queen who's wearing like spandex and is super fey, he runs and wins the javelin toss because of this like special javelin that has like a spring in it, and that's in slow motion, and he's running like super gay running,
And he's like holding a giant floppy dick.
and then he's like and then he wins that. So they used all their nerd smarts to win, and that's how they like, I guess, triumph. But then I have this thing that happens where I really check out in the last like 20 minutes of a movie, and I really like, I just get, I don't know what it is, I get bored, or like I know the good part's over and I don't want to see the hero's return. I'm done. So a lot of times, like, I'll remember really specific details about a movie, and then I can never remember the end of it. Like, I know the end of Revenge of the Nerds, they
win.
They win, and then something happens, and then they get made fun of again, and then
they win again.
And then the blonde nerd from Grey's Anatomy makes a speech and is like, if anyone's ever been put down, stepped on, kicked aside, treated like dirt, you know you have. And then everyone's like, nerds, and they all chant nerds.
Oh, even remember the guy that wants to kill the nerds that just goes, nerds.
Yeah. Nerds. That guy,
yeah. Ogre, that's his name.
But I guess that was Two Thumbs not as far down as Splash, because we watched the whole thing.
Nerds is actually great. It's just, there's some big, no, it's not great. It's, how do you
can get past the racism, homophobia, and like rape jokes?
you can get past the 80s.
Yeah.
You can get past the 80s.
But we watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's like Two Thumbs, like medium. One down,
one down,
to the side.
one down, one to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else did you find on your rewatching quest?
Mannequin, surprisingly, has 2 thumbs up.
This is a surprise to me, with Kim Cattrall and the man named Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It was like 2 people recommended it to me when I took my Instagram poll of what 80s movies like you could watch without wanting to die. And I was like, that can't be right. It's about a guy who like makes a woman that then comes to life just for him. But there's like it's actually like a female empowerment tale kind of. There is some like Orientalist weird stuff because she's supposedly like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh.
She's from Egypt.
Yeah.
And she's white as snow.
Yeah. But she's like, her mom's trying to marry her after some gross dude that she doesn't want to marry. So she like goes into some kind of weird spirit hibernation and
journeys through time, returns down Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
Like meets all these like, historical figures.
She tells him the world is round and then she dumps him.
Yeah.
And then ends up with, what's his name?
Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah.
Who's like either dead-eyed or like has the most energy in his eye. I can't tell what his thing is with his eyes. He's such a weird looking guy and his acting is so weird.
He looks like Tweety Bird.
He does?
Yeah, it's like big blue eyes and like tiny little nose and mouth and like kind of a bobbly head.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
But,
yeah.
How does he bring her to life? He's just working the night shift?
He's an artist, sculptor who works at a mannequin factory, and he spends like 6 weeks building this mannequin, and they're like, you're supposed to do 6 of those a day.
And he's like, fired. My beautiful mannequin.
This is just like Xanadu.
Oh. I only saw Xanadu when I was very, very young, like 5.
In Xanadu, there's a guy who's a muralist for a record store, as is a job or a record company, and he's taking too long on his murals. And then somehow he like paints the muses, and Olivia Newton-John is one of the muses, and then they all start roller skating together. Also, Weird Science.
Yeah, but Weird Science is kind of like nerds who are horny. They're like incels, and she like teaches them how to get girls. But he's not. He's just an artist, and he actually has a girlfriend who's like kind of a bitch, but
who's beautiful and has amazing clothes.
Yeah, she's got amazing clothes. But so he's not like a weird misogynist. He's not like turned on by the mannequin. He's like, it's like his artwork.
Yeah, it's like his
creation.
His David.
Yeah. And then when she comes alive, she helps him. She inspires him and helps him make the window displays of this like failing department store. And that like reinvigorates the department store.
So there's the
she's
thread.
kind of a big artist. She's the one who like
the one.
can do everything. And he's kind of like, I'm in awe of you. And there's this like night cop who's like an idiot and a bigot, and he calls him a bigot Andrew
Because
McCarthy.
isn't it because he says something homophobic about
Yeah.
Hollywood?
Yeah, he's like, you and that Fruit Loop Hollywood, or what are you doing in the window displays? And he's like, says something about the cop being a bigot. And it's like, oh, this is like strangely, for an 80s movie, has okay politics.
Yeah, but then like the character Hollywood is completely like
a little ridiculous.
a little bit ridiculous. You know, just a fake. Like it's always, you know, it's like the same thing with Revenge of the Nerds, like making
It's
the
like, it's my
one black
big.
character dress like a, you know, act like a woman, and that's like the most hilarious thing in the world.
Yeah.
So that's very 80s of it. But then the other thing about that movie was that he makes these sculptures, and then they come, and then she's in all of them, these like window display things, and then she comes to life, and he almost gets caught all the time like making out with her. So like whenever someone else sees her, she becomes a mannequin, but when he's with her, she's a live person. And so like he's like making out with her, and then someone will come in the room, and then it'll just be him
Like rolling around
the floor with a mannequin, and they're like,
mannequin.
"What's wrong with you, you freak?" Which is nice to see.
Yeah, but Mannequin
To
gets
talk about-
2 thumbs up.
Mannequin gets 2 thumbs up. Except for James Spader, who plays.
Oh yeah, he's like an evil gay guy.
He is?
Yeah.
And he's the one that's trying to like snafu and ruin Andrew McCarthy's career.
He's like Smithers or Mr. Burns, or some kind of weird combo of Smithers and Mr. Burns.
And he's like, oh, yes, no, he's trying, let's intervene and get him, we got to get him fired. Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's like, you're a genius. And then behind his back, he's like, we have to get him fired. It's weird.
Have you watched The Bodyguard lately?
Oh, yeah, I have. I've seen
No.
that movie quite a few times.
The Bodyguard includes an evil white gay character who is intent on getting rid of the main straight guy. Kevin Costner, the main straight guy, who's bodyguarding Whitney Houston, and Whitney Houston's publicist, I can't remember his name, but he's like, we just got to do it, babe. So what if people are trying to kill you? You need to get on the stage.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Does he want to kill her?
He doesn't want to kill her. He just wants the clicks. You know, and then Kevin Costner is the noble bodyguard who wants her to just hang out in his basement apartment watching him do sword routines and having sex.
Yeah. Drinking orange
Right.
juice or something, right?
Definitely.
He's drinking orange juice, and then he wants to like just take her to his cabin in Vermont where they all sit wrapped while he and his dad play an ancient chess game that they started years ago. And Whitney Houston's whole family's around them being like, oh, what's going to happen next?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Definitely has her best interest.
Definitely has her best interest in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she does. The Queen of the Night scene is incredible, though, when she has that outfit on that's like all silver. She has a cape on, and she's just chef's kiss. She's just extraordinary in that movie.
It's worth watching
stunning.
again. Mariah, I would love for you to watch it sometime, just knowing you watched it, because the script is such a low quality. The script is such a poor quality, and Kevin Costner's acting and his character itself is so flat and strange that it made me go down a rabbit hole afterwards to be like, how did this get made? And the script had been passed over like 7 billion times. And then Kevin Costner read it and was like, this seems good, and worked for years advocating it with his star power to try and get it made.
I
Wow.
am Kevin Costner.
I watched Dances with Wolves maybe recently, which is fucked up for a million reasons, but that are so obvious it's like almost pointless to talk about. But I was very shocked by the idea that Kevin Costner was some kind of heartthrob. And I had a crush on him. Probably
I am Robin Hood.
Yeah, like he was like a romantic lead.
But he's
Makes no
so
sense.
flat. It's like that post John Wayne time where he's like strong, and that's his only thing, is that he's strong.
But he's like it's such a high voice. It's like high voice strong, which is weird. You know what I mean?
Hi, I'm Kevin Costner.
Yeah. Watch me do my sword routines.
You see this scarf?
Weird.
Look, here's my Ginsu knife routine.
I mean, we have low standards.
What's the 80s?
Yeah, no, I mean, in general, like my standards are really low.
Yeah.
Like
For anything?
very low. I mean, you know, like I'm just a product of that time. Like I showed showgirls in my class that I had at Pratt without a content warning, and I was called out so hard. And I was like, oops, forgot about everything that's problematic about that movie. I mean, not that I don't know it, but I just, you know, it's like that's what we had to work with at the time.
Yeah, it's like we've learned to watch movies in a way that like filters out all that stuff and
Critical distance.
yeah, critical distance.
And the kids these days,
it's like all we have.
they don't have time for that.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we don't enjoy critical distance. We don't enjoy irony. We want integrity. We want people to say what their feelings are. I don't know. It's disgusting. Horrible.
And the other movie I wanted to talk about, because this was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and then I watched it again in my 20s, and I was like, this movie's great. And then I tried to watch it with Jib, and it was like a fucking horror movie. It's so scary. Overboard.
Overboard, is that Goldie Hawn head injury? And she's with Kurt Russell?
Yeah, she's like this like rich bitch who has the most amazing outfits in the beginning. She's wearing like a thong bikini with like a silver blazer and like crazy designer sunglasses.
Her outfits are
so good.
Legit.
And she's like horrible and like hates her husband and is mean to Kurt Russell, who's building her a cedar closet
on her yacht.
Yeah, on her yacht. And she's just like, she's portrayed as just like the most hideous rich bitch, awful woman. And then she falls off the yacht, hits her head, and gets amnesia, of course.
Oh man.
Best 80s plot driver. And she ends up like in jail because the local police can't figure out who she is. And her husband won't claim her because he's like, I'm finally free. And he like rows his boat away. And Kurt Russell sees her on the news. And I remember this as a kid, like there's a sailor who finds her who's like French Canadian. And he was like, she was swimming like a fuck. And I remember thinking that was so funny. And like fuck means seal in French. Like, what kind of weird 80s French Canadian joke is that? Anyway, so he sees her on the news and he's like, oh, she owes me money. Oh, right. She won't pay him for his work because she's mean. And
the closet, cedar closet.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm going to make her pay by pretending she's my wife, bringing her home and making her raise my horrible brat sons. He's got like 3 horrible sons. And he's like, yeah, babe, you're my wife. And he dresses her like in overalls and
and he's like, I'm so sweet.
Like they sleep in the bed together. And
oh
she's
my
like,
God.
This doesn't feel right. I don't remember this. And he's like, no, honey, it's fine. Like totally gaslighting her. And then of course, over the course of the movie, she falls in love with him. And she's like, I hate my rich life. I want to be with these horrible children and this disgusting man who kidnapped me essentially.
Yeah, because she wouldn't give him his like
$50 for yeah. So he's like, she's gonna work it off.
Yeah.
So just to be like Kimmy Schmidt living in the bunker.
Yeah, totally. But no good jokes. It was
scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Wait, so how far did you make it? Sorry.
He goes out drinking he goes out to like a bar or something and then he's like, I'm gonna scare her. So he like dumps whiskey all over his clothes and comes home and crawls into bed with her and like acts like he's gonna fuck her. And she's like, ah. And then we were like, well, I can't watch this. We were like, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? And he doesn't do it because that would just be a bridge too far, even for the 80s. But yeah, that movie. And I watched it when I was like 25 and I was like, this is great.
Well, 25, it was the 90s.
No, it wasn't. It was 2005.
Oh, well, that makes sense because you're circling back to the ironic times.
Right. It was a Bush era.
Bush era.
So you're giving this a thumbs up or a thumbs down here?
It was way down.
Way. All right.
Thumbs down for that. Thumbs up for Heather's.
Yeah.
The world is waiting for you.
And it's a gay-mazing world.
I'm Karen Tongson.
And I'm Nicole J. Georges.
And we're the hosts of The Gay-Mazing Race, a new limited series podcast about the amazing race, your favorite reality competition show from an LGBTQ point of view.
We are going to talk to gay-mazing guests, including Oswald Mendez, Team Guido, the Married Lesbian Ministers, and more. Plus, we will learn behind-the-scenes gossip, trivia, we'll talk about gay villains, the closet, archetypes, processing challenges that we just can't forget, and more.
And beyond that, you'll also have a gay-mazing soundtrack scored by the Kaya Wilson. This music has been described as Enya-esque with Druidic energy.
So listen to us, The Gay-Mazing Race, wherever you get your podcasts.
The Gay-Mazing Race, the Gay-Mazing Race, the Gay-Mazing Race.
Oh,
I know.
I know
Back
what
to
you
the
wanna
Future
talk
2.
about. Oh,
Or 3, 2.
two.
The Western
That
one
movie
or
was
the
fucking
one in the
weird.
future where
Have you
Donald
seen
Trump's the
that?
president? Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Where
one.
Donald Trump's the president.
He's president already? I don't think we even made it that far.
Yeah. And he, but Michael J. Fox has a, one of those scenes like in the Eddie Murphy movie where he plays all the characters in the family around a dinner table.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael J. Fox has a scene like that. And in one scene, he's dressed like he's supposed to be his own sister or something.
Yeah, he
So
plays
he's
his
in
sister.
full drag and he looks really good.
And he's like, Dan.
And we're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was
And
really
then-
weird.
Yeah. And I told Chris Vargas about it because he has that poster that he turned into a t-shirt with all of the video tape covers of every movie that has any trans representation at all. And he was like, oh my God, I missed that one. But it was definitely interesting. And then he plays the older, like, mean dad who is just like, who did we say was the mean he was like?
I don't remember.
Probably better we don't remember because it
Yeah.
might have been someone we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Never Ending Story, never my thing.
I loved it when I was a kid, but I haven't seen it lately. I do remember though that the plot with the child princess was creepy.
It's interesting.
That dog snake with its weird
Falcor?
dog skin, like the shiny.
Sacrilege.
Oh, you don't like Falcor?
No, ew. You know, Mariah loves
loved it.
Labyrinth.
I do.
I also love Labyrinth. And I-
Labyrinth defined my sexuality. And like that unrequited thing between like 40-year-old David Bowie and 13-year-old Jennifer Connelly was like the hottest thing I'd ever seen. I used to watch it over and over again and be like, just say yes to him. Just
Where he's
give
like,
will over to him.
his
Yeah.
weird kind of narcissist or whatever thing where he's like, all this I did for you. All this. And all I ask is for you to be, what is it? He's like, for you to obey me.
Yeah.
That's all I ask. And she's like, no. And she's just a brat.
Over me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he's got Tina Turner hair and leggings that show his entire penis. Like what more do you want? You know, and an army of puppets.
She just didn't want to babysit anymore.
He was like, I want my redheaded stepchild.
Me, that sounds like a description.
The Tina Turner hair and the
Turner hair, leggings. You can see my entire penis, a vagina, and I have an army of puppets.
Yeah.
Mariah and Jibz, thank you for sharing this wealth of information. You watched probably what, 20, 30 hours of 80s films so that we didn't have to.
It's true.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll never get that time back. But we're happy that it actually came to something and that we get to talk about these relevant topics since there's like nothing going on right now politically or like in the news.
Well, it seems nice to be like, let me just let me take a walk down nostalgia way to try and get my head out of the world today. And then you're just like in a horror show of like homophobic, ableist, fat, like sizist, racism, rape. And you're like, oh, I wish somebody had helped guide me through my 80s nostalgia. Here we are.
Yeah. And like, but it's really relevant, it's like that, this,
You understand the president.
yeah, you really do.
Better
I mean,
when you watch
the
these comedies.
80s presidency is like, the 80s presidency.
We do have a very 80s presidency right now.
Yeah, 80s man.
80s man.
He's
Our
in-
friend Elena Smith, she has a Twitter account called 80s man. I don't know if she's still active, but in the years leading up to the election, she decided to embody an 80s man, and it's amazing and
The
hilarious.
Twitter is so funny.
And it's basically just Donald Trump quotes, but like not knowing
him.
that he was about to.
Yeah,
run
it's
for
like
president.
about Chablis. There's quotes about like Chablis and like
My ex-wife.
beautiful women, filing cabinets, stuff
Yeah.
like that. These files.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
My secretary.
yeah.
But
So
yeah.
it makes sense that
Actually, weirdly, I had a conversation when Brett Kavanaugh, that whole thing happened. I went to Northern Ireland right after that. And I met some guy in a bar, and he was being a real asshole. And he was like, Kavanaugh. And he was like, she was lying. And I was like, why would you think she's lying? Like, have you ever seen an 80s movie? And he was like, Northern Ireland in the 80s was at war. I didn't have time for movies. And I was like, come on, that's such a cop out. Like, you can still watch them. I was like, yeah, anyway, it was kind of a weird cross section of everything in that moment.
Brett Kavanaugh was in Meatballs. Like, he was just living his Meatballs, Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds life.
Yeah, I always wanted to watch Porky's. Porgies or Porkies?
Porkies,
Porkies.
Meatballs, just anything that just showed boobs.
yeah.
The VHS cover for Porky's was amazing. It was just like,
Was it Through the Hole?
Glory Hole.
maybe I'm thinking of something else. I just
Yeah.
remember lots of boobs on the cover and being like, I want to see that. And my mom was like, no.
Why don't you just look down?
Yeah. Weren't there yet.
Look at the middle.
Oh wait, my last 80s movie story
Yeah.
was when I was a kid. I only had like one rule, and it was that I was not allowed to watch Dirty Dancing.
That's the only rule?
Yeah, I could do anything else I wanted except watch Dirty Dancing. So I was like very
But your mom
serious.
would tell you everything you wanted to know about sex,
Yeah.
everything you didn't want to know about sex.
Yeah, but I couldn't watch Dirty Dancing. Probably because she didn't like Patrick Swayze. Anyway, so since it was my only rule, I would like clung to it and obeyed it. And
Coveted your only rule.
yeah, and my friend in 6th grade was like, let's watch Dirty Dancing. And I was like, I am not allowed to watch that. So we were looking through like a drawer full of like VHS tapes that were taped off TV, and there was like My Own Private Idaho starring Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix. And we were like, oh, we love them. They're such heartthrobs. And we watched that instead of Dirty Dancing.
And that's why you are you and I am me.
Yeah.
Because I watched Dirty Dancing like 7 million times.
Yeah. I turned it off. I didn't understand what was happening.
My Own Private Idaho?
Yeah. I was like 10 or 7 or something.
Have you gotten to watch Dirty Dancing since then?
No, I've never seen it.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen Dirty Dancing. It's my
Oh.
only rule.
You're still not allowed?
Still not allowed.
I didn't know that you'd never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh my God, we got to watch it. It's so great.
I
I mean,
It's
it's
great.
so bad, but
It's a class uprising.
I can say, yeah, there's a class uprising. There's also the whole thing like they're Jewish and no one ever says that they're Jewish. And there's this whole thing about that Borscht Belt, like private like resorts, because Jewish people couldn't go to like whatever regular people like the
Poconos.
Yeah, they weren't allowed. They weren't
Yeah.
invited. And so they had all of these incredible like summer resort things, and they were really common. So I think that at the time when they made the movie, it seemed like a lot of people who were on board to make the movie had the memories of these type of places, but they weren't really in any kind of media yet. Like they hadn't really been seen. But the documentary that is on Netflix called like Movies We Love or something, there is a Dirty Dancing one that is fascinating. It was such a hard movie to get made. And Patrick Swayze, maybe this is just a little tidbit I'll leave you with. He was really trying to get away from being a dancer. He was a dancer, and he wanted to be an actor. He wanted to be a serious actor. So his agent, he wouldn't allow anybody to put on his resumes that he was a professional dancer. And somehow they got a headshot of his, and they were like, this is the guy. And they got like an old headshot that had info on it that he was a dancer. and it was like a big mistake, and he was super, super pissed, and he didn't want to do it at all. He was bummed. He was like, this is a stupid movie with fucking bad writing, and he was right. But he was also like, perfect. Mwah. Perfect.
That's perfect. I just want you to know, side note for you, Linda Berry every year has her writing workshop at the Omega Institute in upstate New York. And that, before it was purchased by hippies, used to be one of those resorts. It used to be a camp just for Jewish kids.
That's so weird. I grew up right near there.
Oh, really? It was like it was either a Jewish summer camp or like family place, but the Omega Institute.
Well, thank you, Nicole.
Yeah,
this was so fun, and so fun to see you.
So fun to see you too. I'll come down when there's like just like one hospital bed available for me.
Yeah,
Just literally one hospital, or even if like there's an ambulance that can just idle outside and I could get some kind of non-COVID.
All right, friend.
All right. Have a lovely day, you guys. Nice to see both of your faces, and bye to Clyde and Bodyguard Tammy.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
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 Sagittarian Matters is produced by Chris Sutton, with assistance by Ponyo Georges. Our theme music is composed by Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs of the band Bouquet. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.